Let us begin with a challenging observation. Consider the possibility that, quite unknowingly, you have carried a deep pattern with you throughout your life. This is not a force from the outside. It is not some hidden mystery. It is something far more intimate. It is a current that flows within, breathing in rhythm with you, often mistaken for your very self. It is the unobserved part of you, the part that you do not see, yet it guides your hand. This is the presence behind every seemingly random impulse, behind each choice that disrupts your peace, just as stillness seemed attainable. Can you sense it? That persistent pull you cannot quite name, yet which never departs. Have you ever, in a moment of profound quiet, heard an echo in your mind that is not you, yet sounds just like your own voice? The whisper that suggests you are not capable, that you are fundamentally separate, a weight upon others, that you are somehow too much or not enough. And here we find the subtle nature of this pattern. That inner voice does not intend you harm, it seeks to protect you. Yet, it operates from a place of old pain, and you have come to believe this pain is your true identity. You have become accustomed to living near a state of inner turmoil, without understanding its source, to repeating habits that pull you downward, to turning away from what you love, to silencing what feels unsettled, to projecting an image of calm, while a part of you silently pleads for a change of course. Have you ever paused to ask why you act as you do when no one is watching? Why you are consumed by difficult thoughts that you hold in silence? Why you follow these currents that diminish your spirit, even when you know they are wearing you down? This is not born of a lack of will. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal, a message you have overlooked for so long that it has been forced to grow louder, because your true self can no longer sustain a fragmented existence. And now, I will share an insight that may require stillness to receive. If you feel you do not quite belong, that the world affects you with great intensity, that your inner state is a landscape of shifting seasons, it is because your awareness is not common. It possesses a profound and rare depth. And this can present a challenge, not for you, but for others, because a presence like yours is not easily ignored. People can feel your stillness before they meet your gaze. Your very being can be unsettling. It reminds them, it awakens them, for you carry a certain ancient quietness, a truth so deeply buried in the collective that many no longer recall its existence. And in this lies a profound understanding. That energy, that sensitivity, that intensity, they are not flaws in the design. They are internal signals, indicators that something essential in your life has long been asking for your attention. And instead of listening, you have perhaps sought comfort in distraction. You have built routines to avoid stillness. You have filled your life with noise, so as not to hear the powerful whisper of your deeper knowing. But it does not vanish, because it is not something to be removed. It is something to be integrated. And the more you turn from it, the more it expresses itself through imbalance, through compulsions, through attachments, through difficult relationships, through a persistent disquiet, through behaviors you may not comprehend, but feel powerless to change, because they are simply this deep current attempting to guide you back to wholeness. And what is the most hidden aspect of this? No one showed you how to view your discomfort as a messenger. You were taught to push it away, to feel shame for it, to cover it with activity, to silence it with hollow reassurances. But here you are, and that inner current has not receded. In fact, it is with you now, observing, waiting, not to cause collapse, but for you to finally turn your attention toward it. This journey is not for those who prefer to remain asleep. It is for those who, like you, have begun to suspect that the very thing that challenges them is also their guide. We will not speak of simple fixes or fleeting motivation. We will journey into the places we are taught to avoid: your cycles, your impulses, your fears, your desire for approval, your feeling of lack, your anger. We are here to understand the silent language of your inner world, because this perceived chaos is not random. It has its own logic, it follows ancient laws, and it is wise. Your pain is not the adversary, it is the compass. Do you have the courage to look at what you have consistently turned away from? Because once you see it with clarity, it cannot be unseen. And at that moment, a choice arises. Will you continue to run from yourself? Or will you light a candle and walk down into the quiet stillness of your own heart, where you have stored everything you truly are? For only there, amongst the stillness of what you have disowned, does your true strength await, silent, deep, immense, and ready for your awareness. Let us speak of something few will touch, the profound challenge of being truly aware. I do not mean a moral awareness, nor the simple knowledge of right and wrong. I am speaking of that raw, unwavering clarity that asks you to see yourself without illusion, the kind that leads you to question everything, even as others seem to float on the surface, untroubled. And yes, I understand this can be exhausting, because when you see a great deal, you feel a great deal. And when you feel so deeply, you begin to construct defenses so as not to be overwhelmed. The difficulty is that these very defenses are what can disconnect you from your own center. Have you observed how this unfolds? You begin to engage in behaviors you do not understand. You retreat into solitude without reason. You become attached to things that bring no real nourishment. You disrupt your own path just when things seem to be flowing with ease. But behind all of this, there is no madness. There is a deep clarity that has been improperly channeled. Because when you possess a heightened sensitivity, reality does not simply enter your mind as it does for others. It arrives unfiltered in its raw form. Every word, every gesture, every silence is perceived on multiple levels. And this creates an internal weight that few can understand. It is from this place that repetitive patterns are born, not from weakness, but from an excess of input. You are not broken. You are processing a great deal. Your mind handles more. Your body holds more. Your heart feels more until it reaches its limit. And then the familiar habit appears, the repetitive action, the fixation, the form of escape. But here is the mechanism. When you finally experience that moment of release, when you eat or drink or distract or let go, the system finds relief and registers this as a solution, even if its long-term effect is destructive. And you who are aware, you know this. Yet you feel unable to stop it, because the mind does not respond to logic when what it truly seeks is an emotional release from pressure. This is why repetition is not a choice. It is a response. And the more you attempt to control it with sheer will, the more it eludes you. Because what you need is not more discipline. It is more understanding, more presence, more space to feel what has been held inside for years. And do you know what adds another layer of complexity? While you navigate this inner turbulence, from the outside, your life may appear quite normal. You have ordinary days, calm moments, social interactions, and this can lead you to doubt your own experience. Am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Why does this affect me so profoundly if my life is not in crisis? That is the subtle illusion, the self-doubt you build when you begin to distrust the validity of your own pain. But discomfort needs neither permission nor justification to exist. It simply is. And that is enough. Now, listen with care, for this is important. The deeper your capacity for emotional perception, the more refined your methods of hiding from yourself become. You may no longer need overt distractions or visible excesses. Sometimes it is enough to fill your life with business, to care for everyone except yourself, to analyze everything into abstraction, to say, I have already dealt with that, when in truth, you have only buried it under layers of theory. The way you escape becomes more elegant than before, but just as confining. And here we arrive at the most subtle insight of all. The unobserved self is not only composed of what you dislike, it is also made of everything you do not dare to admit you truly need, of the desires you have judged, of the anger you have disguised as peace, of the need to be seen, to be valued, to be held that you have learned to deny in order to appear self-reliant. And the more you deny these things, the more powerful the unconscious drive to seek them becomes. The issue is not a lack of control, it is a lack of permission. Permission to feel without a filter, to be angry without guilt, to grieve without explanation, to say, I need this, without shame, because most of your patterns are not born from an attachment to pleasure. They are born from an emotional hunger, from unheard needs, from wounds that remain tender long after the surface has healed. Do you wish to know why it is so difficult to change the course of the river? Because your pain, even as it causes suffering, is also familiar. It is predictable, you know its shape, whereas well-being, true calm, and genuine connection can feel alien, uncomfortable, even suspect. This is why, when good things begin to flow into your life, you may disrupt them. Not because you are foolish, not because you are undeserving, but because the emotional system you have trained for years understands what is familiar as being safe. Because goodness exposes you, it asks you to be open, and you may not yet know what to do with true peace. And this is the very core of it. Your system does not primarily seek happiness. It seeks familiarity, which it mistakes for safety. And if your sense of safety was built in the midst of chaos, then chaos is what you will unconsciously seek again and again. That is why letting go is hard. It is why you repeat connections with people who do not nourish you. It is why you become dependent on things you resent, because your body interprets the familiar as secure even when it hurts. So this is not a matter of willpower. It is a matter of profound emotional repatterning. And that repatterning does not happen through force. It happens when you begin to honestly observe all that you have turned away from, when you start to build inner spaces of stillness where you can feel without needing to hide. When you cease trying to prove something and begin to ask, what part of me is asking for recognition? What emotion am I disowning? What impulse am I judging so fiercely that I am, without intention, giving it more strength? Your sensitivity, your intensity, your capacity to feel the world deeply. These are not design flaws. They are the consequence of a mind that had to learn to navigate a challenging environment. And now, that same system is asking you for something new, not to simply survive, but to heal, to integrate, to return to yourself without masks, without filters, without excuses, with all the rawness, the anger, the tenderness, and the stillness that this implies. Because in the end, the only truly transformative act is to dare to be yourself without anesthetic. And that is the most difficult path, but also the only one that can truly set you free. And just as you begin to see that the key is not to eliminate your impulses, but to understand them, another truth may appear, one that can be deeply unsettling. You are not only navigating your present emotions, you are also carrying the echoes of emotions that are not originally yours. The deep conditioning of generations, burdens that did not begin with you, but that can end with you if you choose to do the work. Because yes, though it may sound profound, many of the emotions that feel overwhelming were not born from your personal story, but from that of your parents, your grandparents, your lineage. And the most vital part is that all of this is held not in your thoughts, but in your body. That unease that arises for no apparent reason, that deep sadness for which you have no story, that feeling of guilt when you choose your own well-being. At times, these are not your own. They are patterns of loyalty you learned without being aware, as if your very being became a vessel for inherited ways of being. You are not taught this in school, nor do you find it in simple books on self-improvement, but you carry it within you. You live it directly every time you attempt to move forward and feel an unseen current pulling you back. Has this been your experience? You decide to make a genuine change. You begin to care for yourself, to set clear boundaries, to say no. And suddenly, you feel a deep discomfort, as if you were breaking an ancient law, as if you were violating a silent agreement you don't remember making. That is the power of emotional memory, and it resides not only in your personal history, but in the history of your family, in how they learned to survive, in how your role models may have repressed, silenced, and endured. You inherited that way of navigating the world. And now, as you try to walk a different path, your internal system perceives it as a threat. And that is the point where many turn back, because they believe the discomfort means they are on the wrong path, when in reality, it means they are finally becoming free. Change does not initially feel like liberation. It can feel like a departure from all that is known, because you are breaking the silent contracts that maintain the painful but familiar equilibrium. That is why moving forward can be unsettling, not because you are wrong, but because you may be the first in your lineage to do things differently. And that requires great courage. You may feel alone. You may feel misunderstood. You may feel as though your world is unsteady. But it is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is evolution. It is a deep cleansing of what is not yours to carry. And no one may applaud you for this. No one may even notice. But you feel it. You know it. You experience it in your own being. So, what can you do when everything you thought you were begins to dissolve? The first step is to understand this is not an ending. It is a beginning. It is the precise moment your identity starts to rebuild itself from a place of truth, from who you are, not from what you were taught to be. And here, another equally profound journey begins, rebuilding your sense of self. But not the superficial self, worth based on accomplishments, approval, or social acceptance. I mean the kind of inner stability that comes from knowing yourself deeply and choosing yourself regardless. The kind that does not waver when you make a mistake. The kind that supports you when no one else does. And here we find a most interesting pattern. Most of us have a self-image created from the reflections we saw in the eyes of others, our parents, our teachers, our partners, our friends. And over time, that image can become a cage because we begin to live our lives to maintain it, not out of self-love, but out of a fear of disconnection. And that is the next great challenge, allowing that image to fall away. To stop trying to be the person others expect, and to begin being the person you truly need to be. It is not a simple task, because that image is often tied to your sense of value. If you learned that you only mattered when you cared for others, when you remained quiet, when you did not cause disruption, when you achieved, then every time you prioritize your own well-being, you will feel the echo of guilt. But that guilt is an illusion. You do not owe your life to being a reflection for others. You are not here to maintain the emotional balance of those around you at the expense of your own peace. And if your presence, your depth, your intensity makes others uncomfortable, let it be so. You did not come into this life to be merely comfortable. You came to awaken, to transform, to bring old cycles to an end. And now, listen closely, for this speaks directly to your nervous system. You do not need to be on high alert all the time. You do not have to anticipate every outcome to avoid pain. The original danger has passed, but your body does not yet know this. That is why it reacts as it does. It is why you may live with a subtle tension in your muscles. It is why your sleep may be restless. It is why you may eat without hunger or lose your appetite to unease, because your body learned that to be relaxed is to be vulnerable. And here is the real work, to gently re-educate your system so it understands it no longer needs to be in a constant state of defense. This is not achieved only with moments of meditation or with words spoken to a mirror. It is achieved through small, repeated acts of self-compassion, with clear and quiet boundaries, with moments of pause where you can silently affirm, I am safe. I do not have to run. I do not have to explain. I do not have to rescue anyone. And yes, at first, you will feel the guilt, the emptiness, even a kind of sorrow you cannot explain. But this does not mean you are doing it wrong. It means you are cleansing. You are shedding the layers you have carried since you were a child. You are setting down burdens that were never yours to carry. And when you begin to live from this place, something shifts. Your impulses find their calm. Your compulsions dissolve, not because you have conquered them, but because you no longer need them. Because you are no longer running away. You are inhabiting yourself. You are listening to yourself. You are acting from a place of connection, not from a place of emptiness. And that is the teaching no one offers you. That when you learn to truly be with yourself, many of your inner battles simply fade away. Your intensity does not disappear, but it transforms. It becomes a creative fire, a clear direction, a profound authenticity. It is no longer a current that pulls you under. It is a light that guides you. And then you stop fighting with yourself. You stop seeing your sensitivity as a weakness. And you begin to see it for what it always was, a doorway, a compass, a profound way to understand the world and to transform it. And that transformation begins with you, here, now, in this moment where you can no longer pretend, where your soul asks for truth, where your body asks for rest, where your life story finally wishes to be rewritten from a place of awareness, not from a place of old pain. So do not cover it. Do not deny it. Do not distract from it. Look at it. Listen to it. Hold it with compassion. Because in that part of yourself you may have once feared lies everything you need to become free. And you are already prepared, even if you do not yet feel it. Now, having journeyed this far together, let us pause. A space for quiet reflection. For within this understanding itself, a form of awakening is already taking place. The seed of a profound inner shift. It is here that true transformation begins. It is not an image of a flawless self, nor a final destination of success. It is something much more raw, much more real, your capacity to hold your own being with compassion, without depending on external praise, without needing to feel good all the time, without demanding that you be an optimized version of yourself every single day. And when you discover this, when you begin to live from this space, the old spell is broken. Life ceases to feel like a race to prove your worth. Your relationships change. Your way of working changes. Even your breath changes. You no longer need to struggle so much. You are no longer trying to fit into a space that was not made for you. You begin to create spaces where you can simply exist. And in this world, that alone is a revolution. But there is one final subtle trap. It is this: the thought that now that you understand, you will no longer stumble. The belief that knowledge grants immunity. That you will never again feel doubt, never again fall into old patterns, never again turn away from yourself. My friend, you will stumble again because this path does not make you perfect. It makes you honest. You will see old patterns arise. You will feel the tide of anxiety return. You will have days where you do not understand anything you feel. And that is perfectly all right, because now you do not run from it. Now you see it, you observe it, and you choose to be with yourself again and again. That is the difference between a life lived in unawareness and a life lived from a place of truth. It is not that everything suddenly becomes easy. It is that you stop demanding that you must always be at peace in order to deserve love, respect, or rest. It is that you finally give yourself permission to be human, whole, contradictory, intense, and free. And here we come to the final insight, one that only those who have journeyed this far can truly grasp. The unobserved parts of you are not what holds you back. They are what is pushing you to awaken. Every time you feel overwhelmed, every time you feel you have reached your limit, it is not the end. It is the body saying, "Enough. Stop ignoring me. Listen to me. I need to heal." And when you finally do, when instead of numbing the feeling, you decide to simply breathe with what is present, that is when your inner revolution truly begins. That is when your life truly begins. So, if you have journeyed to this point, if you have felt these words as if they were spoken directly to your own heart, know this: it is not by chance. You are ready. You are on the very edge of a place from which you no longer wish to turn back. And if this time together has stirred something within you, if it has offered a clue, a piece of truth, or even the profound discomfort you needed to feel, I invite you to continue on this path. This is a commitment to yourself. For here, we will not remain on the surface. We will continue to explore, to inquire, and to bring light to that which is often left in the shadows. And I invite you to share in the comments. Simply write, "I am here." In that way, I will know you have reached this point, that you are no longer running, that you are awake. And now I will take my leave, but not with a comforting phrase, not with a simple conclusion. I will leave you with a question, one that will echo more deeply than any advice. Who would you be if you were no longer at war with yourself? We will meet again in the next stillness or in your next moment of awakening. The choice is yours.